Good evening, fellow entrepreneurs, small business owners, and side hustlers. I'm Dogoza Shatwayo, and welcome once again to an awesome episode of the Business Forecast. That's right, it's the Entrepreneurs Podcast. It's the show that gets you connected to a wide array of professional, successful entrepreneurs, all of whom are here for one thing and one thing only to help you get your business to the next level. So, we've had so many great episodes. We've been inspired, we've learned so much, and I really hope that you receive the value that the people who've come here have been trying to give into us, because these are people who are experienced. They've achieved so much in the business sphere, and they're gracious enough to come through. And I hope I'm back now. We had some connectivity problems. So as I was saying, I hope you guys have been really enjoying what the guests have been saying, because these are people who've done so much in the business sphere, and they're coming through and they're gracious enough to share their knowledge with us. So today we have another such guest. We've spoken about so many different topics, and today we're getting into one of the most important ones, right? And that is the subject of innovation. Probably one of the most important topics right now, because we're living in the fourth industrial revolution, sorry. And so we need to know how we as small business owners can connect to the various innovation opportunities out there. So today we've got Miss Lauren Fleiser, and she is from the Collective Organization. Ms. Lauren Fleiser is an expert in innovation ecosystems. In fact, she's an expert in innovation as a whole, as well as developing ecosystems. So she's coming through today to share her knowledge with us, and I really hope it's going to help. When I started researching about innovation ecosystems, I just thought, why aren't small business doing this? It's such a great initiative that even big companies are actually starting to do this. But if we're small business owners could actually come through and understand what innovation systems are and actually start using the systems in our businesses, I feel like we're going to achieve a whole lot more. So yes, without any further ado, I'd like you guys to help me welcome to the studio Miss Lauren Fleiser. Hi, Lauren. How are you doing?
Hi, Ntokoza. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. We thank you for agreeing to join us today, because it's really an honor to have you with what you have achieved. I mean, over 20 years experience in the business sector. Some of the companies you've worked for and some of the things you've instituted are absolutely fantastic. And the fact that you were gracious enough to come through and share your knowledge with us is absolutely wonderful. I just want to start off there by saying thank you for that. And yes, I think before we get into the questions that we have for you, maybe we can start with just if you could tell us a bit about yourself, how you got into this field of innovation, and what motivates you and things along those lines.
Well, I have always been entrepreneurial from a very young age. And to say the least, I have not gone with the normal ways of doing things. So I've always defied convention. And because of that, my journey through life and through business has been quite unconventional. And it's exposed me to a lot of things that a traditional role would not have exposed me to. So, being entrepreneurial, being unconventional, I have set up and run businesses across multiple industries. I have worked in a variety of different kinds of organizations, ranging from corporate to academic to just normal entrepreneurial ventures. And because of this, I have this rare ability to see things from a much bigger perspective. And I have this ability now to connect all the different dots that come with understanding the different types of organizations and the way they work. So we call this connecting the ecosystem dots.
That's actually quite amazing, and thank you for that. Just that concept of connecting connecting the ecosystem dots. I just felt like we need to ask you more about it because I feel like it's a speciality of yours, and it's really awesome to hear about what you've done and how you've landed where you've landed. And just to tell the rest of the viewers, I first came across Lauren when you had I'm not sure what to call it, like a conference about innovative ecosystems, and there were people from around the world just speaking on this topic, and it was so amazing. I was blown away that I needed to, reach out to you because I'd never heard of innovation or ecosystems coming together to achieve such things. So I really, really hope everybody's going to enjoy what you have for us today. So before we get any further, maybe we can start off with actually explaining what ecosystems are. Maybe someone is here and they're like, okay, I get the innovation side of things, but I don't really get the ecosystem side of things. So maybe you can start there. What is an ecosystem?
So, a lot of us will be more familiar with the term ecosystem when we refer to nature and biological ecosystems. So, in biological ecosystems, you have a variety of different animals and organisms interacting with one another and also with their environment. And these interactions and also the environment they're in influence each other in this delicate balance that is nature. So, about 30 years ago, the word ecosystem started to make its way into business. And it became about, the term became business ecosystem. And it really was about moving away from a traditional organization where one organization is at the heart of everything towards different kinds of stakeholders and organizations and individuals working together in a business ecosystem. With, within a business ecosystem, you would find private organizations, public organizations, government. You could find entrepreneurs and startups all coming together in different combinations in order to produce value. Whereas before it was only one big brand or one big organization producing that value. Now it's a variety of stakeholders working together to produce that value. And the key thing is that it's not just a bunch of stakeholders, that these different stakeholders would be connected by the different relationships that govern them, variety of processes that govern them. The purpose of them all coming together to work together is very key. And and all the ways they interact and the processes around them that bring them together. So we've moved from a world where one organization produces products and sends them out to customers and goes to market to customers, whereas now you can have many different types of stakeholders working together to solve problems, to produce innovative solutions.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible. Thank you for that definition. I think it's probably eye-opening to a lot of SMEs because I know from experience that a lot of entrepreneurs like to work in silos. And if large corporations have seen the need to actually form ecosystems where different stakeholders come together to actually work on creating a better system or better product offering, then how much more would that be needed, with SMMEs? And I really enjoy the talks of ecosystems because this is stuff that small business owners need to hear about. Stop operating in silos. Understand that value can be provided when different, as you say, organisms or organizations come together and actually create these solutions that reach people, more effectively. So I don't know what you would say to that. Is it something that you've noticed when it comes to small business owners? Do they understand ecosystems, and a lot of them, do they operate in ecosystems?
So no, not enough, not yet. So you get what's become quite popular is the notion of an innovation ecosystem, and the innovation ecosystem is essentially a type of business ecosystem where the different combinations of the role players will come together to around a common purpose. And This can be either for commercial reasons or non-commercial reasons, but ultimately, in an innovation ecosystem, there has to be a purpose. And what's very key is that it's not just about producing a product. So we all probably familiar with the term minimum viable product, and an entrepreneur might be acting in a silo at the moment, trying desperately to put it whatever resources they have together to produce an MVP. A minimum viable ecosystem, or MVE, goes a step beyond this, and this is where we talk about innovation ecosystems. And an innovation ecosystem is not just about the stakeholders coming together to produce an MVP. It's about the fact that all those stakeholders coming together can consistently produce an MVP again and again and again. And not just that minimum viable version of it, but to take it one step further and take it to market so that it actually has impact in the market. And for that ecosystem of all players to be able to do that collectively. So when you ask the question, are entrepreneurs aware of this? Probably a lot of them aren't. Probably a lot of them are struggling. I would say the statistic's quite high. 80% of entrepreneurs feel that it's struggle. Whereas there's this opportunity to play in an ecosystem mode where you're no longer alone, where you can surround yourself with different stakeholders and everybody supports each other to what we call co-create value. So every stakeholder who plays in that ecosystem should be elevating their value from their different perspectives in order to get something out of that ecosystem. It's no longer just about the customer getting value. It's about everyone in the ecosystem getting value.
Phew. Wow. To be honest, we're just getting goosebumps hearing that explanation because I feel like it's, the answer we've been waiting for as small business owners. I'm personally an advocate of business networking. So I love the idea of small businesses working together. But now you bring in this other thing called, an innovation ecosystem where we're not just in a network or business network, but we're coming together to, as you're saying, to constantly add value such that we're building a minimum viable ecosystem and keep on taking out the MVPs, the minimum viable products. That's absolutely incredible. And I really want us to get into that in terms of how we can do that practically, small business owners in South Africa. But before we get there, I just want to ask, we know that small business owners in South Africa are really struggling. In fact, I think we've got one of the highest failure rates when it comes to SMMEs in the first 5 years. There's a lot of issues that are plaguing our SMMEs. How do you see innovation ecosystems, solving these problems? In what way can innovation ecosystems start to solve these issues that are plaguing SMMEs in South Africa?
So we need to highlight what are these big issues, and for just about every SME, they're the same, and they are revenue. SMEs always need revenue. It's not just cash flow, it's getting the money into the bank, getting cash flow running through the business. We need funding because we don't necessarily have the same resources as big organizations. And very importantly, we need access to market because we simply don't have those big networks that giant corporations have. Now, into the ecosystem concept. So, an innovation ecosystem can play out in a variety of different shapes, types, and sizes. On a small level, a mini ecosystem that would really help a startup would be what's called corporate innovation. And in corporate innovation, big corporates and large organizations are willing to partner with the SMEs, provided that there's a good match between the two. So you're getting a lot of these corporate innovation ecosystems forming between corporates and startups. That's one way a startup can partner with somebody much bigger, get access to market, get the funding and everything from the outset. But just be careful of that because You don't want the big organization to dominate. It's a partnership. It's an ecosystem where everybody should be getting value. So that's key. The other different types and sizes of ecosystems, they start getting much bigger. So then you get sector-based ecosystems. And those are innovation ecosystems where a company, it could be a big company, it could be a university, is orchestrated something around a sector such as health. It could be healthcare, it could be agriculture, it could be education. So, for example, it could be the purpose of that ecosystem could be ensuring inclusive education for a certain region or for even a continent. It could be infrastructure, such as the purpose of that ecosystem is access to clean water. And you can find those types of ecosystems that are forming all around the world around specific industries and sectors. And if your product or your startup or your idea fits into that ecosystem, then you can apply to participate in that ecosystem. And if you're a good match for that ecosystem, your organization then becomes part of it. And instead of being alone, you're now operating with a variety of different stakeholders who are all trying to solve a similar problem. So look out for your sector ecosystems. Another popular one that will help with your big struggles is a district-based ecosystem. So that's where support networks form within in a city or an area, and the corporates and the governments and academia and entrepreneurs and startups, they all interact in these innovation hubs within a city. So it's very physically based innovation ecosystem or hub that you could join. And then there's entrepreneurial ecosystems. So we spoke about the sector ecosystems. There's specific sector ecosystems that focus on helping entrepreneurs. And within those ecosystems, you have all the necessary support networks to help you succeed with your business. So find what we call entrepreneurial ecosystems and join those. And then the last one, which is the one I'm gonna add a little caveat clause because there is some risk, is you can build your own or orchestrate your own ecosystem. And that means that it doesn't matter whether you're big or small. Anybody can start an ecosystem and say, well, what is the purpose of this ecosystem? So if, for example, it's to solve for access to clean water, you as the entrepreneur can start pulling together the right companies, organizations, individuals, and other startups you want to work with in order to get your idea out there in a much bigger, much more impactful and in a scalable way. The risk with that is you need a long runway of your own financial support. So if you're going to start your own ecosystem, make sure that you've got enough money in the bank for at least 18 months to support yourself as the entrepreneur who's orchestrating that ecosystem. It takes a lot longer when you're involving all these other role players than it would for a typical MVP. So just to maybe add to what I was saying, you can take it even one step further because there are specific entrepreneurship ecosystems that are designed for specific countries, for specific entrepreneurship communities. So not everybody is in a fortunate position to have access to resources. There are entrepreneurship ecosystems that have formed for entrepreneurs that start with nothing and start from absolute scratch. And a lot of not-for-profits are supporting those types of entrepreneurial ecosystems. They might refer to them as social ecosystems as well. And just look out again for those those big sector ecosystems and see if your idea or your product would fit in with one of those sector ecosystems. And if you want to orchestrate your own ecosystem, I would recommend a set of steps that you should follow. So the most important thing is to understand why your ecosystem should exist in the first place. Always start with the why. What is the purpose of your ecosystem? And that purpose should be big enough to attract the kinds of role players that would want to participate, such as universities and other academic institutions. So make sure that your ecosystem has a very strong purpose as the first step. The next step would be, who's going to orchestrate that ecosystem? Are you going to do it? Is somebody within your network of SMEs going to do it? Or is it going to be, are you going to anchor it more in one of the bigger role players who would orchestrate it? And by orchestrated, we mean the entity or the individual who leads that ecosystem, who knows how to connect which role player to which other role player and how those relationships will interact. And also somebody strong enough to understand the different types of role players and how their relationships would work. So you need a very strong ecosystem orchestrator. If you're not orchestrating the ecosystem, then you're participating in it. So are you going to then collaborate in that ecosystem, and who are your core collaborators going to be versus your support collaborators? So the core collaborators are generally your individuals or organizations who see the massive value that they can participate in, that they can bring, and that they can also get out of the ecosystem. So the core collaborators are quite natural to that ecosystem. And then the third step would be, how are you going to fund that ecosystem? So if we have an ecosystem that is orchestrated by an SME, again, if you're funding it, make sure that you have enough money to support your venture and the ecosystem and yourself for a number of months. Otherwise, collaborate with a corporate. So find those corporates who are working on the same concepts as you, have the same purpose, trying to achieve the same impact as you, and approach those corporates and let them know what you're trying to do, and ask them if you can work with them in a corporate innovation style. There are also organizations who specialize in creating links between corporates and SMEs. So find those organizations to help you. And then the corporate can fund the innovation, and you would then still have an equity stake in that. So yeah, look out for those corporate innovation ecosystems. And then the fourth step would be, what is the value that's going to be bought and captured from each of the stakeholders in the ecosystem? You need to make sure that you document that up front. Are they going to get commercial value? Are they going to get an equity stake? Are they going to get a revenue stake? Are they going to grow their networks? Are they going to build their research base? What is the reason why they will participate? And yeah, see that Ntukozo has having issues with sound, but has asked, what is the collective organization and how can it help? So essentially, we are firstly an advisory organization. So wherever you are with your ecosystems, if you need help, please contact us. We can help you put in place the correct structures. We can help you put in place the purpose of the ecosystem and ensure that it attracts the right people. We can ensure we connect you to the right technology providers who can make sure your ecosystem works effectively from a collaborative technology perspective, that your resources are shared effectively. And then we also have, we're about to launch a community of practice specifically for those who are interested in innovation ecosystems. And in this community, we are going to be speaking to the top experts in the world on innovation ecosystems who will help us with all our challenges around innovation ecosystems and who will also help connect us to the right collaborators who we want to work with and to the right ecosystems who we want to work with. So for those of you who are interested, please get hold of me at Lauren at collectiveorganization.com, and we'll try organize a very good price for you as an SME to join the community. I see there's some questions from the viewers. We've got one from Zolani. How do you protect your ecosystem from big players? So that is a very, very good question. And it's, if you are orchestrating the ecosystem as an SME, you need to have very strong rules of engagement from the outset. And in those rules, you determine upfront that this is the value that each role player is going to bring, and this is what they're going to get in exchange. So if you are trying to orchestrate that ecosystem as an SME and you're worried about the bigger role players, make sure that you have the rules of engagement written down from the outset. So everybody knows who gets what value by bringing what value. It's a value exchange. If somebody joins your ecosystem, they have to sign that agreement. They can't just join. It can't just be what's known as innovation theatre or innovation fluff. So you build relationships based on trust in ecosystems, absolutely. But those trust relationships must be supported by legal agreements and governance, just like any organization. The only difference is that with an ecosystem style organizations, you've got a number of different organizations playing within one organization, but you still need to have your legal ducks in a row, any legal agreements. So nobody should be joining your ecosystem without signing an agreement. They know what they're in for. I hope that helps. Thank you, Timbakila. That's you're most welcome. I'm glad you're enjoying it and you're finding it insightful. Thanks, Patricia. I agree that it's time for small businesses and startups to stand up for themselves. We're in a world now where the things that go to the products that go to market, solutions to big problems that don't only need to come from big companies, that a lot of the ideas come from small business, and we should be taking a stand, because with technology, we don't only need the big companies to succeed. We can do it. We can start our own ecosystems.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. My apologies. This is the only way I can appear as an avatar, unfortunately. My apologies to you, Lauren, and my apologies to everybody who's watching us. There seems to be a problem with our mics that we've been using. And I want to say thank you so much to Lauren for, holding the fort as awesomely as you did. And thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us. I feel like it's really been quite phenomenal. And I've learned so much, and judging from the number of comments that we have, there's a lot of people who are so grateful. There's one more question. I don't know if you have time for one more question. I think you did get into this earlier, but maybe Sharon didn't get to hear you. Basically, she's just asking, in simple English, how would you explain what an ecosystem is? And I know
early on you did get into it and it was quite amazing, but maybe you can just summarize it for everybody so that we can all leave here with a full knowledge and understanding of what an ecosystem is and what are the next steps we can take concerning it.
So it helps to say what it's not first. So a traditional organization, the organization is at the heart of the product. That organization creates a product, puts it to market, and also controls that product, controls the ownership of that product, and ensures that they accrue all the rewards from that product. In an ecosystem, the heart of that ecosystem is the problem that is being solved is at the heart of that ecosystem. And from that problem that is being solved will come a product or a solution. The difference is that that product and solution is developed by a number of different stakeholders. So in an ecosystem, it's not just one organization, it's a number of different organizations and individuals solving that problem, which is at the heart of that ecosystem. And every single one of those stakeholders is supposed to get value from solving that problem. So they could get commercial value, they could get access to market or network, they could get revenue stakes in it. It could help them impact their communities that they work with. So that is what an ecosystem is. It's a number of different stakeholders interacting. Their relationships and processes are designed to solve a problem at the heart of that ecosystem, and everybody in the ecosystem, their value will elevate because they've participated.
Wow. Fantastic. That's an awesome answer. Thank you so much for that. I just wonder if I believe, yeah, maybe Sharon, if you can tell us if that was a good enough explanation. But on my side, that was absolutely perfect, and I'm so excited about the possibility of ecosystems and what we can achieve. Having have learned what we learned here today. So we just want to say thank you, and with apologies once again to Lauren for such an awesome presentation and explanation, an introduction into the world of innovation ecosystems. And I do feel like it's one of those conversations that we're going to need to have more than once, because there's so much to learn from it. And I do know that you sometimes do, as a collective organization, have some seminars, and webinars on it. And perhaps if there are any coming up, you could tell us about them. But if not, maybe you can just give us some parting words before you go.
Oh, I'd just say, well, firstly, you're always more than welcome to attend any of our webinars. If you could just connect with me on LinkedIn. So it's Lauren Fleiser on LinkedIn. Then you'll be kept up to date with all our events. And just some parting words is that we are now in what is called an ecosystem economy or a multi-stakeholder economy, which means that as entrepreneurs, we're going to all have to learn how to operate with a variety of different organizations. So build that skill and use it to get the support that you need instead of struggling by yourself. We don't need to struggle by ourselves anymore. We can join these ecosystems, we can start these ecosystems and get as much support, knowledge, resources, funding that we need instead of being by ourselves.
Thank you so much. I was wondering if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know what else to say. Sorry for the two. This is the only way I can. You can hear me and see me at the same time. So I try to innovate
innovate
around
around
this
the
situation.
situation.
But I
But I
wanted you
wanted
to
you to
see me
see
as I
me as I
say
say
this.
this.
Just want to
Just
say
want to say
thank you
thank
so
you so
much.
much.
This has
This has
been
been
enjoyable
enjoyable as
as
well as
very
very
educational,
educational,
and
and
you
you
added
added
value to
value
us.
to us.
And we're
And
gonna
we're
say
gonna say
thank you,
thank you,
and we want
and
to
we
wish
want to
you
wish
all
you
the
all the
best.
best. You know,
For the
for the
collective
collective
organization.
organization.
What you're
What
trying
you're
to
trying to
do,
do,
what you're
what you're
aiming to
aiming
do
to
is
do is
absolutely
absolutely
fantastic, and
fantastic,
we want
and
to
we want
wish
to
you the
wish you the
best,
best,
and want to
and
say
want to say
thank you
thank
so
you
much
so
for
much for
joining
joining
us.
us.
And
And
please,
please,
would you
would
please
you please
consider saying
consider
yes
saying
to
yes to
another
another
session?
session?
With absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you everybody for your participation. And I hope to see you all again in another session.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
With
With
that, we
that,
just
we
want to
just want to
say
say
bye,
bye,
Lauren.
Lauren.
Bye, everyone.